We are back on One New York's longest sports call-in show. Keenan Troy, Will Grant, joined by Sam Davis, our video producer for today's show. He's the one who had to make sure that On the Green promo was queued up. His podcast, his baby, alongside some of the other guys here, breaking down all things golf. Speaking of golf, that is why Sam is here. But before we get to that, Sam, is this your first time back on One since your trip across the pond to Ireland?
It is. First time back since study abroad, since January. It's crazy. It feels really crazy. It's awesome to be back. The second I stepped in the station, I was just like, oh, it feels like I'm home. So it's definitely great to be back. And what better way to be back? I mean, I can't wait to talk some golf here.
Yeah, and, you know, it's very fitting that, you went to abroad in Ireland, you know.
Played golf over there, too.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
In the UK, Ireland scene where golf is from, depending on which culture you believe has the original ties to it, because there are some disputes. But speaking of disputes surrounding golf, this week it marks the first event of LIV Golf. And what is LIV Golf? Well, it depends on where you ask. If you believe in ethics or whether you care about the future of the sport. But Sam, you broke it down perfectly on your podcast On the Green, which I encourage everyone who's listening to today's show to go check out on wherever you get your podcasts. On the Green by WFUV Sports. They break it down perfectly about LIV Golf, but essentially LIV Golf is a Saudi-financed super golf league in a way that puts on tournaments across the globe that, you know, we've seen professional players such as Phil, such as Dustin Johnson, you know, Bryson's in the mix. Patrick Reed said that both of those two said they'll compete when the events come to the United States. I think this is the first weekend of LIV Golf taking place just outside of London in the UK. I got to ask, Sam, I know you've tuned into some of it. I've caught some on YouTube because they don't have TV rights for some reason.
It's actually on right now as we speak.
Oh.
It's currently on the final
It's currently
round,
on right now, and I've just seen a tweet of somebody hitting it left and knocking somebody who is in attendance
Oh, boy.
out cold,
Oh, my
I
goodness.
believe. More to come, more to come.
Okay, wow. Developing story there. Holy cow. Yeah, no, but the final round's on right now. The way it works is, you know, this is a extremely unique scenario for the game of golf, for sports as a whole. The tournament itself is interesting in the way it's constructed. It's a shotgun start, as they call it, so everyone starts on a different hole, and everyone's playing at the same time. So it's a little chaotic, especially without the TV rights. It's on YouTube. So if you do watch, if you turn on YouTube, you'll see the leaderboard. You'll see holes left to play at the top, and then all these guys, and they have logos next to them for the actual teams that they're on. So they're all split up into teams of 4, and you have, you know, obviously, like you said, Dustin Johnson leading a team, Phil Mickelson leading a team. So you've got some, you know, bigger names, and that is what's been so surprising. Sergio Garcia as well, you know, among Bryson DeChambeau. He'll be there at the next tournament. It's kind of been thrown together in the last, it seems like, couple weeks, because it was in the talks for a long time. Obviously, it was originally connected to Phil, and Phil had money problems going on. It seemed like he was going to be the one to take that jump away from the PGA Tour, but it didn't seem like it was realistically going to happen until you start seeing guys like Dustin Johnson. That was a surprise. DeChambeau, that was a surprise. Leave the tour. They are now, you know, almost banned from the tour. They you know, the PGA Tour struck down on them and punished them for deciding to join LIV Golf. And they, I guess, their decision-making process is they want guaranteed money, obviously, and that's the bottom line, and that's what's speaking in this whole scenario. It's the money. It's totally that money, and these guys, you know, like you mentioned, there's a moral ethics side to it as well of where this money's coming from. Obviously, the Saudi government. Certainly questionable ways of getting that money to give to these players. But the players, quite frankly, they don't have an answer for that, and they don't really care. I think ultimately for them it's about money, which I guess I would say you can understand these guys making this decision. But at the same time, it has a lot of negative implications, I think, overall for the PGA Tour and the game of golf as a whole.
The guaranteed money is very interesting. Because in like regular PGA Tour, does everybody like make money?
Yeah, so the way it works, it's like it's kind of surprising. Basically, winner's obviously going to make the most amount of money, and then it'll go down from there. There's a purse, which is the total amount of money that the tournament will give out to players. Typically, if you make the cut, if you're playing on the weekend, you're going to make some money.
Okay.
If you're down near the bottom, obviously that money is not very much. But even so, I mean, most of the money these guys make is from sponsorship. It's
That's
from,
right.
you know, like I think Tiger Woods just became a billionaire, for example. And I think I would have to pull it up, but it's a little over $100 million from golf. And the rest of that is from
Nike,
endorsements and
yeah.
from everything that, you know, he does off the field. So obviously that is kind of off the course. Obviously that's kind of, I guess, just the way that it's constructed. A lot of people could call that an issue, and understandably so, which is the basis for this league. This is why they decided to make this and say, we're going to give these guys guaranteed contracts. The season is way shorter. It's only 8 events. So normally, you know, golf tournaments are just about every week, and some guys will choose not to play in some events, to skip them or whatever it may be. But the season's a lot longer. This is 8 events, you know, across, you know, a couple months. And so it's a shorter season. They're making a lot more money. And it's guaranteed money. So it doesn't matter how they play. They're going to make that money no matter what. So obviously that's pretty attractive to a lot of these guys that have decided to join.
And so, you know, obviously there's the ethical concerns of where's this money coming from? Because, you know, Phil is reported to take home $200 million for this.
Yep.
You talked about Tiger being a billionaire through endorsements.
He was offered
a
$1
billion
dollars.
And,
$1 billion to
DJ,
join LIV Golf, turned it down.
DJ maybe getting $150 million.
Yeah.
The winner from this week in London is taking home a $4 million purse. There's a $20 million purse for the team event, and then so that's split amongst the members of the team, and then the winner of the individual event takes home $4 million. Even last place is guaranteed $120,000. Obviously, there's ethical concerns, and Sam, you pointed out a lot of these guys are just like, that's not from, you know, I'm just here to golf.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that from some of these golfers who, you know, make statements like, I'm just here to play golf. I played golf all around the world. Why does it matter? But now that the PGA is coming back on these guys, you know, 17 suspended. You know, you look at a guy like Sergio Garcia, who, when he made the decision to play, handed in his PGA Tour card.
Yeah, it's almost like I quit before you fire me
Yeah,
kind of
right,
thing. That's
right.
what all these guys kind of did. They were like, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet here. Because they knew what was coming. Everybody knew what was coming, for sure.
But I think the biggest discrepancy, because, you know, for example, the PGA has an event on this weekend, the Canadian Open, is going on right now.
Yeah.
Cam Smith's in the lead there. But I think the biggest discrepancy you see is you got the big names for LIV Golf. You know, you got Phil, which big name on paper, consistent challenger.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, DJ, obviously, world #1 for a while before Scheffler got hot.
Yeah.
He's probably 1A. Bryson's still dealing with injuries. Guaranteed money makes sense for a guy like Bryson.
It totally does. And he's also like kind of a villain to a lot of golf fans in
Right.
general. Like, you know, I think a lot of people there was that thing with him and Brooks, and a lot of people
Right.
sided with Brooks Koepka, and like Bryson, it gets, you know, you guys talked about Draymond Green earlier. That's kind of an interesting parallel there. Bryson's kind of like one of those guys that, you know, a lot of golf fans will you know, not like, I guess, or not side with. So for him to join, I guess that was one of them that, for me, that kind of just made a lot of sense. And he's also injured, so to get that guaranteed money is big for him too.
But with the exception of those big names, you've got a lot of guys electing to stay out of LIV Golf. Obviously, Tiger, you know, Rory.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting, definitely, to see, you know, now that the 17 tour members that are on LIV Golf have been suspended by the PGA Tour and are forbidden to, you know, play in tour events until who knows what happens with LIV Golf.
Yeah,
I don't
indefinite
know.
right
Yeah,
now.
it's indefinite. I don't know if it's going to be a lifetime suspension or if it's going to, you know, we don't really know the lifetime of LIV Golf.
Exactly.
Because you can only, you know, with no sponsorships and it all just pretty much being a giant deficit for the Saudis.
They're not making any money. They're not making any. I mean, there's no ads. There's, you know, it's on YouTube. There's no sponsors, like you said. Like, I don't understand. I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure, but I can't think of a way they're making any money at all.
So is it all just for
well, the Saudi,
I'm confused.
The idea
so
of the
much.
Saudis doing it is they call it like I think it's like sports washing, or I forget the term exactly, but it's basically a way to give them a better image.
They did it with the WWE a couple years ago.
Yeah, so it's just about improving the image for Saudi Arabia, and they feel like doing this is a good way to do so. It's a obviously it's sponsored by them and funded by them.
And if you have such unbelievably deep pockets, why not try and create a good atmosphere for like sports in your country? That makes sense.
It's interesting too with like the way that this tournament has been, you know, structured. They're obviously trying to pitch the game of golf in a different way that the PGA Tour does. they're trying to, I think, engage more of a younger audience. They're trying, you know, I saw like the promotional videos they had, and they have like, it looks like a carnival there, and they have people like, you know, young kids and like,
it looked like a music festival.
Yeah,
a little bit.
yes, yeah. That's a perfect comparison, which I think is obviously definitely a strategic move by them to kind of contrast the PGA Tour and what they do, where sometimes people see the game of golf as very highbrow, as very, you know, rules oriented, as very, you know, polite, I guess you could say. And they're trying to, I guess, you know, contrast that and make for a different audience, you know, of people that would like to watch golf and be interested in the sport, but it's a little different than people that would turn on the PGA Tour. So ultimately, I think, you know, that's another angle of this too that we talked about on the green as well, is, you know, if you create, you know, they're obviously exposing some of the issues with the PGA Tour. You know, there's certainly some issues with the tour. I think the amount of events is one of them. Like the Canadian Open this week is really being overshadowed, obviously by LIV Golf. But even if LIV Golf wasn't happening, it's a weak field. It's not a great field. So when you have some tournaments week in, week out that just don't have the big names that you're looking for, I think it signals a need for a change in the tour. And I think overall that could be something that comes out of LIV Golf for PGA, because now they have a competitor. They've never really had a competitor, the PGA Tour. Now all of a sudden they do. And they realize, okay, we need to make some changes, and I think that very well could come out of this whole situation.
So you think that LIV Golf can actually, you know, stand up to PGA? But we've seen over the past years, you know, USFL,
yes.
XFL,
Yep.
rivaling the NFL, which is, you know, obviously the NFL is a much larger entity. They own a day of the week. So you really think that LIV Golf can you know, put up a fight against PGA?
No, I to be honest, I'm pretty pessimistic about it. I just think that the PGA Tour is worried about it. That's what I will say.
Okay.
With the stuff. I mean, I don't know, obviously, but that's my speculation. With the guys going over there, you know, originally obviously being just Phil, I think DJ was a big one. Dustin Johnson was a big one because he's won majors before. He's won plenty of money on the golf course. He has tons of sponsorships.
I was going to
too.
say the DJ sponsorships.
He makes a ton of money, you know, playing golf on the PGA Tour. So his decision to join was, I think, shocking for most golf fans. So I think the PGA Tour is just a little worried, and I think for that reason it's going to, you know, motivate them to make change. But overall, for LIV Golf, I'm very pessimistic with the way it started, just because it seems like it's kind of all thrown together. It's not a very professional. It just doesn't seem too professional right now. I think things will get better as the events go on, but right now, I mean, I don't see this lasting too long. But I very well could be wrong. Who knows what they'll do to change this up, and we'll see what happens going forward. But overall, I think the PGA Tour has an opportunity to try and change the way that they do things, because the reason, you know, and I think what makes me upset, I guess, about LIV Golf is that I think it's overall just like, you know, I want to see all the best players on one stage competing. And I think every golf fan would say the same. And when you have things split up like this, the way that it is, it's only going to hurt attracting new fans to the game. You know, I think that's a constant, you know, issue with the PGA Tour. That's a constant issue with golf as a whole. It's about getting, you know, a younger audience, getting new people involved and interested. And I think this and splitting the league up and having some guys, you know, jump around, I think overall that very well could hurt what golf as a whole and what the PGA Tour is aspiring to do.
And Sam, so you mentioned, you know, not having the strongest field with some of these guys being gone. And so if we look at the LIV Golf Invitational Series schedule, set to run, obviously this is weekend 1, which is weird because it's Thursday through Saturday. You don't get the Sunday. You know.
It's a new format. That's another thing too. They're really trying to contrast the PGA, be different. You know,
right.
With ending on Saturday instead of Sunday. We're so used to golf ending on Sunday. So that's interesting too.
Exactly, but it starts this weekend, and then the next event's Pumpkin Ridge in Portland, Oregon. That's where you might see Patrick Reed join and, you know, Bryson DeChambeau join.
Yep.
Then playing Trump National in New Jersey, the International in Boston. That gets us into September. And then they round out the year, eventually finishing at the Trump National in Miami. They play 2 more events outside the United States, one being in Bangkok, one being in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I think that's something that's super overlooked for LIV Golf, is that, you know, there's an international aspect to it. And, you know, still so much of golf is tied in with, I don't want to say like an elitist, but it's, the only place they play, PGA plays outside of the United States, is they go up to Canada once a year, and then they go across the pond, whether it's for President's Cup, Ryder Cup, or for the British Open. Yeah. But even in that aspect, it's still, best of the best, elite country clubs. So I think there's something to be acclaimed in LIV Golf's attempts to, bring it to, obviously they have to bring it to Saudi Arabia, bringing it to Thailand. But I'd imagine if LIV Golf makes it through year one to see another one, you'd expect them to, go explore where there's other tours, whether it's like Corn Ferry, the Mexican Tour, whatever it is. I would expect LIV Golf to go down there and try and, capitalize off pre-existing golf markets. That all being said, I think the most interesting thing for me is, we're already through 2 majors this year. I think
the majors is interesting.
Really interesting when you start, Tiger, he's backing out to focus on the British Open. I think, I just wonder, Sam, and I don't know if you can speculate on this, if you know.
Yeah.
Were we expecting this kind of response from the PGA, just suspending them indefinitely until as long as they're members on the LIV Golf Tour? Because a guy like Dustin Johnson, who's won 3 majors, but is continuously in a position to compete for a major anytime he's out on the golf course, barring a collapse. You always think that DJ's a sure bet to at least be competitive, definitely in the field, making the cut, unless he implodes like he did this past year at the Masters. I think, for me, PGA suspending them indefinitely, I think that turns up the pressure on these guys on the LIV Golf Tour, especially, maybe not the Phils, maybe not the younger guys that, or the Sergios, or the guys that are younger on the LIV Tour that have made maybe 2 career PGA starts, maybe barely made a cut one time, but the guys that still think they have it in them to go out and win a Masters. So definitely or any major. So definitely a Bryson, probably an Oosthuizen, a DJ, a Reed. And any guy on the tour right now, PGA Tour, that was like, man, maybe I could use a payday from LIV. That would help me, in the long run. Missing out on the chance to play in a major, there's nothing in golf that compares to winning a major. I just wonder, if, it's going to be so hard to speculate on because we've never seen something rival the PGA before, as you were saying. If LIV sticks around, do you expect more golfers to flock there? I mean, even if you don't want to play in the Travelers or the Canadian Open that's this weekend, but only if you don't want to compete for a major, you go to the LIV Tour. But if you want to compete for a major, you can't go to the LIV Tour.
Well, no, actually, this is like this comes up a lot, and these guys. So it's very confusing. So the PGA Tour actually doesn't really have the authority over majors and what they can do. So the Masters, let's say, I think it's like, the board, whatever it may be, there's a group there that really controls that tournament. They can say, and I think they have come out, and it happened in the past with Phil, when Phil was considering this LIV Golf before anyone else. They said, Phil, you can still play in the Masters. Phil, you can still come and play in the PGA as well. Even that's confusing too. The PGA Championship is still it's technically not governed by the PGA Tour, so it's really confusing. But the majors are open for these guys, which to me is really interesting because a guy like Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, they're going to come back. They're going to play. The U.S. Open is coming up. If they're in that tournament, which I think they will be, who knows how that's going to shape out, but I think they will be. What if they get paired with a guy like Rory McIlroy, who has been really outspoken against LIV Golf? Justin Thomas is another example of a guy that, and there's a lot of tension there, which is unusual in golf. You don't normally see that kind of drama or tension as much, but you're really going to see that because it's a very personal sport. You could see Dustin Johnson paired with Rory McIlroy, for example, in a major. And that would be appointment television, I have to say, because just to see those guys interact where they've come out publicly and said, I understand the decision they made. I wish they wouldn't have made it, and they listed the reasons for doing so. Obviously, they feel like the PGA Tour is the best place to play in the world for golf. And Rory came out and said, and I actually, really agree and appreciate what he said, is that any decision made purely for money typically does not work out in the end. Which I thought was a pretty mature thing to say. for him. And I think these guys have an allegiance to the PGA Tour, not just because they're making money on it, but also because it's the number one spot for golf, and it's where all the best players come to play in these tournaments. So they have their opinions about these LIV Golf guys that are going to come back in the majors, and that is going to be really interesting to watch come U.S. Open time, which is coming up. And then obviously going forward for other majors, the British Open as well, to really see how all that is going to play out here. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and I'm happy we're ended on that note too, Sam, because I think one of the biggest concerns golf has always had is how do they stay relevant with a younger audience. Like, I know for myself, I'm not sure how you got into golf. It was from an older person, so it was my dad.
Definitely, same here.
So dad or grandpa, for many golf fans, grow up, and that's something you do with your dad. You go to the range if he's a competitive golfer. Your grandpa, or it's always on the TV or something. That's how it was for me growing up.
Yep.
I think that the one positive that's coming out of LIV is that golf has again been thrust into a national media spotlight from the sports perspective, and it's not because Tiger's relevant or because you had an implosion at Southern Hills on the back nine.
Yeah. It's
a question about the morality of golf, but more importantly, how the PGA can continue to grow. And I think that's something the PGA will benefit from. And as you pointed out, with these LIV guys coming back for majors, you thought that the Brooks and Bryson beef was something. I wouldn't be, we know JT.
It's going to get even worse, I think.
We know JT can be a bit of a hothead. Rory with the Northern Irish are very strong people.
Yes.
Let's get that out there.
Rory can be a hothead at times too.
So I think at the end of the day, it's super hard to speculate where LIV Golf's going to be, where this tour is going to end up after the season. We've seen, as Will pointed out, people challenging the NFL typically only last. I think XFL was the longest with 2 seasons in its first variation.
To be fair, though, it's interesting is that challenging the NFL is a lot harder. Will, you mentioned that too. It's like the PGA Tour is a completely different ball game, which is why I think it's going to be interesting to see how long this goes. LIV Golf could go longer, even though I think it's a lot it's put together a lot poorly than the XFL was, for example. I remember those early, obviously those games are on TV. People are actually watching. This is YouTube. This is like, it's really not
very bare minimum.
It's not the best right now. We'll see how it improves. But I think when it's challenging the PGA Tour, it really has, we'll see. I mean, it has a chance. It'll definitely keep going for these 8 events, and we'll see if it goes beyond that.
Yeah. And I think, as we get through the summer golf schedule too, I think the drama is just going to continue to build, because you'd have to imagine, as you said, the more events that LIV Golf puts out there, the more of a competitor it becomes.
Yes.
Because you allow a group like the Saudi group, who, for example, like I'm a big soccer fan, they'll go buy clubs just for an obscene amount of money and just stack them and make them full of cash revenue. You see that with Manchester City going from pretty much nothing to a titan of a club. Same with Arsenal, who had history, but as soon as Emirates Group gets involved, they just build a new stadium, build all these new amenities. So the longer a group, tied so ethically questionable with Saudi money is allowed to improve their product, you have to believe that they're going to continue to improve it. And when the pockets are that deep and you don't think they're going to turn a profit, they're just going to try and make it as, solid as a product as it is, so that maybe one day they are able to turn a profit on it. I'm super interested to see what happens with LIV Golf going forward, but for right now, we're just going to have to sit and speculate. They're wrapping up across the pond right now. I don't know how to follow it, because it looks like an F1 graphic on the side, which are hard enough as it is.
And the names are like initials, and it's really hard to tell who's who. It's really funny.
Right,
like, even like Dustin Johnson, it's like DJSN, so it's like, okay, that makes sense that it's him, but there's a lot of names on there. First of all, you're not going to know anyway, and they're like only 3-letter little things. If you watch, you can see it's on like the left side of the screen. It's poorly organized right now. I'm sure they'll change that around though.
One can only hope. Sam, thank you so much for hopping on.